Well, I'll tell you, it seems like no time since I was taking the front off this bin to have a look at the compost inside. And then I then turned it into the middle bin. And here we are again. What's the compost like? It's made this already. Because I would like to turn it. You can see at the front here where the heap is cooler. So a lot of the material that are against the sides don't get fully decomposed. And this is a good reason to turn the heap. So all this material on the outside, whilst there's still heat in this bin, will get mixed up with the stuff in the centre, which is really decomposed. So it's only these edges, and it will only extend in a few inches, and then we'll dig it out now and we'll have a look at it. And we'll see what the centre's like. The centre will look completely different to this. The centre of the bin will be more like this here, this darker, more rotted material. The material from the sides, back and front, I'll just roughly use the fork to throw that material into roughly the centre of this next box. The material from the centre, I will try and put that around the outside and just get the reverse happening. I will also mix a little bit of this. If there's any stuff like this, I will mix that in with the stuff that's so it's still got heat in it. The sides of this heap are actually just feel cold. There, so that feels cold, but I know the centre of this heap has got a ton of heat in it. So now we look at the top of the bin. All this wonderful mycelium here that's growing. All these fruiting bodies from the fungi that's growing in this bin. Absolutely everywhere here, coming up the sides. It's a shame, it really is a shame to sort of break that fungus network that's built up in here. You know, you're going to kind of break that network up and destroy it to an extent, but this material around the outside has just got to be turned in and broken up. The fungi won't die, it'll just break up this network and essentially just stop these fruiting bodies coming up. But you can see down there this fungal network that's building. And when this went into the middle bin, the top of it looked like this. This is what it looks like now in here. There we go. It looks really good, that. It's not fully broken down yet, but it's good enough to use that as compost. It's now completely cold. Again, this material, when it went into this bin, out of that bin, there was still quite a lot of heat in this, but gradually it's just cooled down and cooled down and cooled down. What I did do the other day, yesterday, I put 2 huge handfuls of worms into this bin from my little worm bin at the back. They've actually done really well this year, the worms in my worm bin. So I dumped them in here, so now they'll be distributed throughout this bin and working hard to further break down this compost. And they make the best compost, worms. Let's get this turned into here. Put this stuff that's like this in the centre of the bin, where it will again be subjected to the most heat. And put a bit of that centre material on it. Yeah, can you see the steam coming off there? Don't know if you can. That's lovely and warm, that. So I'll put that active material now that's still got heat in it. I'll put that into the centre of the bin where the microbes are still actively, you know, breeding and multiplying. Look at the fungi in there, it's just incredible. You know, put that in the centre of the bin, and then the heat can hopefully spread out from there. because this bin, I want to start refilling it again soon, because it will probably be apples and comfrey that make up the bulk of this bin fill now. Now if I've got the timing right, which is very, very hard to figure and calculate because literally every single bin is different. So if I've got the timing anything near right, this bin will heat up again now with the increase of oxygen by turning. Those apples at the back are completely coated in fungi. See this, a jacket of fungi growing all around them apples. Beautiful. I'm not shaking the compost as I drop it in there, so I'm not breaking it all up. I am literally just distributing it differently. You know, getting the fork, get a clump and just turn the clump over as it is without scattering it. Try and keep this little fungal network as intact as possible. And hopefully now these layers here that are still intact, the material that's still intact, they will hopefully now carry on decomposing with this big influx of oxygen that's gone into it from this turn. But whatever happens after this point, we're still making compost anyway. I don't really like putting this on top of compost that has already come out of this bin and has been in that other bin for a good 6-7 weeks, because you know it's a lot more broken down than this. So I'm putting compost on top, which needs a lot more time now to break down. In fact, what I'm doing is I'm burying the compost I literally could be using right now, but because I've got all this green manure in the ground, I don't need it. I really don't need it yet. So this compost here that I'm making now will more than likely go onto the ground next year. This green manure that's on the ground now, growing, will just stay in place, in situ, and it will be used to gather seed for next year, such as the mustard and the maybe the phacelia, maybe the buckwheat. We'll get all the seed off we can, then we'll grow it again next year. So that material can stay growing now and composting on the surface of the soil. The material, as it lays onto the surface, dies, breaks down with the cold weather. That material will protect the surface of the soil over winter from the winds and the rain and the cold, and the microbes can continue to break it down just as it lays on the surface. A lot of fungi in here. As if anything, this year I've put slightly more woody material in here. More woody than green. Because what I've been trying to do is stop these hot bins from becoming anaerobic by getting too wet with too much green material and slumping and sinking. Yeah, and all the air being pushed out of them, so that anaerobic bacteria start taking over the bin. That's when you end up with a really smelly compost bin. And those anaerobic bacteria, we don't really want them in the soil. We want the good oxygen loving bacteria. In a perfect world, I could have just left this bin for 6 months, just as it is, and just let the whole thing compost down at its own rate, which it absolutely would do. But guys, I would need maybe 10 bins that I would fill and leave, fill and leave, fill and leave. I just haven't got room to do that, unfortunately. So we're back to playing compost Jenga. And you can see it doesn't take that long to move what was actually a mountain of material that's gone into this bin, an absolute mountain, which has just disappeared into this compacted state. Things like apples, you can recognise them around the edges of the bin as apples. The centre of the bin, the apples have just disappeared and gone because they've broken down and turned into this black material or dark material. And I don't think, no, there's virtually no heat in the bottom of this heap, so the factor that has stopped the material at the bottom of the heap decomposing is purely lack of air. That's all it is. But it's not so wet that anaerobic bacteria have moved in, because this heap does not smell bad at all. So I guess, guys, by putting this pallet in the base of this bin, we have succeeded in stopping the bins going anaerobic, and coupled with the fact that there's slightly more brown material in this year, a lot of wood chip gone in with the green material. So that's how we've stopped a static hot bin becoming anaerobic. Slightly different rules with hot bins to normal compost bins. They're not equal. So hot bins, as the name suggests, just get a lot hotter than normal bins, and the heat is sustained within the insulated bin. It's kept in, it's held in. So you just get a better rate of decomposition. And there's no rodents, signs of rodents underneath that bin, which is brilliant. And I like that, being able to just dump the base into the top, and then I can start again straight away. If I leave this now just a couple of days, so that pallet in the base can just dry out a little bit, then we're going to protect the pallet from breaking apart. As it dries out, it's going to last a bit longer. Right, I just need to shovel that bit of stuff there into that middle bin, which is now almost full, and then I'm ready to fill that again. Actually, I've just remembered, I want to take this pallet out from under here, because I want to line this bin with the roofer's membrane to protect the insulation. I meant to do it just before this bin was filled last time, and I completely forgot. So yeah, I'll take the pallet out now, and I'm gonna just line this insulation with the same material that's in the other bins. I've done all the other bins, so you can just see that material there. That's what roofers put under the tiles and slates on your roof. It's a breathable membrane, so it's waterproof on this side, and then it allows air to circulate through from the other side. So I'm just going to put it in this bin, just drop it down the sides. The floor will stay as it is. I'll do the front of the actual bin as well, and then it just protects that insulation from moisture, keeps the insulation dry, so it's better at holding heat. If your insulation gets wet, which it probably does in there, it's not as insulative. If it starts getting wet, the heat tends to circulate through it once it gets wet. Right, I'm just going to give that a couple of hours to just sort of dry out a bit now as the compost's out, and I'll put the membrane on. New bin lined out, waterproofed, ready for filling again. Now in the next video I am going to sieve the 11-month-old leaves in the storage bin on the end of the path there. So I'm going to sieve all that through because I'm really running out of storage space, and we'll have a look at what sort of material it's made over the last 11 months, because it's for the potting and seedling compost mixes for next year, which I will show you and tell you how I make them. Alright guys, see you in the next one. Bye for now.